Chapter 18. Subterranean Crypts. I am happy to see a very select group of Gnostic visitors that have come to Mexico, after having attended the International Gnostic Congress in the Republic of El Salvador. Let us continue with our talks, and I hope that all of you get as much benefit from it as you can. After this preamble, let us go into the topic for today. In ancient Chaldea and in Egypt there existed marvelous catacombs, subterranean crypts where the mysteries were cultivated. It is not superfluous to remember the crypts of Thebes and Memphis. Unquestionably, the former were even more famous. From the western side of the Nile, there existed in those times long profound passageways that arrived at the desert of Libya. In such crypts the secrets related with the Ch.18, the inevitable cycle, the cycle of necessity, were cultivated. In these moments when we talk about this, there comes to mind a temple of the serpents of St. John of Teotihuacan. The esoterist investigator can see there the rattlesnake in detail, sculpted on a rock. And the most amazing thing of all of this is that beside the sacred serpent of the Aztec mysteries, the shell also stands out, worked into the stone itself. Many shells beside the divine serpent shine splendidly. There is no doubt that in the subterranean crypts of Chaldea, Thebes, and Memphis, the wisdom of the serpent was really cultivated. The transcendental study of the inevitable circle or circle of necessity, which in a spiral manner or the shape of a shell, is processed during the cosmic manifestation, is also very well known. You see, dear Gnostic brothers, that tonight the intimate relationship that always exists between the serpent and the shell is with me. Reflect a moment on the profound significance that both serpent and shell intrinsically possess. Obviously, the serpent is the transcendental sexual force, the marvelous force that brings us to existence, the force that originates all life. Any authentic esoterist knows very well that the sexual serpentine force of all the universe has power over the tattvas, and therefore over the elements of nature. The universal serpentine force originates infinite creations. Devi Kundalini creates the mental body, the astral, the etheric and the physical bodies. Well then, if Maha Kundalini, or in other words, the cosmic mother, Mother Nature has created all the universe or has taken the shape of the world, obviously, she has also carried out all the processes on the basis of the spiral line, so vividly allegorized by the shell. Any internal progress, every inner development is based on the spiral of life. We, then, speaking now in a personal manner, can say that each of us is a bad shell in the bosom of the Father. To every soul is given or assigned 108 existences for its self-realization, and these are processed in spirals, sometimes higher, sometimes lower. Therein lies the shape of the shell. But let us go deeper, dear brothers, those of you who are here for the talk tonight. Let us study the Ch.18. The inevitable cycle or circle of necessity. The concrete fact that such a profound subject was only studied in these subterranean crypts is very interesting. Undoubtedly, this is the same doctrine of transmigration of souls that was later taught by the avatar Krishna in India. However, it is noteworthy that the Egyptian Ch.18 was even more specific. We have already said much. We have affirmed in these lectures what the descent to the infernal worlds is. We have placed certain emphasis on saying that once completing the cycle of 108 lives that is assigned to each soul, if we have not achieved self-realization, we enter the infernal worlds. Obviously, in these submerged regions, we involute frighteningly until arriving at the ninth circle. Located in the heart of the world, there the lost ones disintegrate, they are reduced to cosmic dust. After the second death, and this is something we have already said in our past lectures, the failed soul or souls come forth, come out once again into the light of the sun to once again begin their journey, starting a new evolution that is to begin inevitably from the lowest rung of the mineral kingdom. What is interesting of the Egyptian, Kuklos and Ankis, are precisely the specifications, the diverse analysis and synthesis. It is clear that one has to keep in mind the ray in which each essence that comes forth from the abyss develops, and therefore its line of particular development. Varied are the vegetable families, varied are the animal species, different from the mineral elements, etc., etc. The rectors of nature cannot make all the essences that have come forth from the abyss pass through the same mineral element, whether these be iron, copper or silver, etc., or through a determined vegetable family or through a determined animal species. The Guru's devas have to wisely distribute life, since some essences can live in iron, some in copper, some in silver, etc. Not all of them can pass through the same mineral element. The vegetable elemental families are very well organized in the etheric world, and not all of the elementals can be pine trees or mint plants. Each vegetable family is different. There are lunar, mercurial, Venusian, solar, Martian, Jupiterian, Saturnine plants, etc. Each of the essences, according to their ray of creation, has to relate with such and such a vegetable department and solve all of this. To know how to distribute it is something that corresponds to the rectors of nature. The animal species are very varied, and it would be absurd to rein corporate determined essences in animal organisms that do not correspond with their ray of creation. Certain essences can evolve in the kingdom of birds, others in quadrupeds, others among the fish of the immense sea. The rectors of life should know then how to manage these currents of elementals wisely so as to avoid confusions, anarchies, unnecessary destruction. Lastly, the entrance of the currents of life in the kingdom of rational humanoids is very delicate. Much wisdom is needed to avoid catastrophes. See for yourselves then what this doctrine of transmigration of souls is, studied in depth by the Egyptians. Wotan also talks to us about a serpent hole, which he had the happiness of having penetrated. The relationship between the serpent or snake hole mentioned by Wotan here in Mexico and the crypts of Egypt and Chaldea is famous. This serpent hole is nothing more but a subterranean cave, a crypt of mysteries, where the great initiate enters triumphantly. Wotan says he could penetrate in that serpent hole within the interior of the earth and arrive to the roots of heaven, because he himself was a serpent, a snake. The Druids of the British Celtic region in Europe also called themselves serpents. It is not superfluous to remember the Egyptian Karnak and the British Karnak, living symbols of the Mount of the Serpent. There is no doubt that you, my visiting friends, already know very well what the serpent is. You already have that information, and that is why I do not think that this information is new. The Hindu clearly talks about the serpent. It is about a marvelous sexual electric force, the sacred fire that is found hidden in each of us. Undoubtedly, this igneous force or serpentine force seems to really be a snake. This is how clairvoyants see it. From the occult anatomical point of view, I can affirm to you in an emphatic manner that it looks like a serpent of fire coiled 3.5 times within the magnetic center of the coccyx, fundamental base of the dorsal spine. Sometimes I fear that you have not understood me, but I know that you have read my books, and this is why in no way should the teaching that we are imparting tonight be strange to you. First, one has to awaken the fire and make it ascend through the spinal canal until it reaches the brain. Only in this way can we radically transform ourselves. Afterwards, and this is what is tremendous, we should be swallowed by the serpent. Only in this can we transform ourselves into serpents. This is the teaching of Wotan. This is the doctrine of the Mayas and of the Aztecs. We can never enjoy the powers of the snake without first being swallowed by it, and this is something that unfortunately many pseudo-esoterist and pseudo-occultist writers do not know. However, I want you to understand that it is not possible to be devoured by the snake without first having defeated the dragon. In my previous book titled The Three Mountains, I cite the dragon also, but before I wanted to make reference to an abominable monster that every human being carries within, along with the three traitors, and which one has to inevitably disintegrate in the lunar infernos. Now I am talking about a different dragon. I am referring to the reflection of the logos within ourselves, here and now, the authentic devil, the sacred dragon of the Draconscious that has nothing evil or perverse as ignorant people suppose. This red dragon, that shadow of the solar logos in us, that psychological trainer that each person carries in his interior, puts us in situations of temptation with the purpose of training us on the path of virtue. We have already said, and I will not get tired of repeating it to satiety, that without temptation there is no virtue. The stronger the temptations, the greater the virtues. If we are able to emerge victorious, temptation is fire. Triumph over temptation is light. Let us not look with disdain at Typhoon Baphomet the devil, because each person carries him within himself and he is the shadow of the inner God. Remember, brothers, that the devil is every contrast. The devil is the shadow of the sun, the shadow of each tree in the light of the king's star and of the night, etc. Looking at it from another angle, seeing this matter from another point of view, we can say that the devil is the flip side of every metal, for the tenebrous ones, for the people that live in the abyss, for the demons, the angels, the gods, light, kindness, beauty, etc., etc. are devil-like. If people that live in light become terrified when they see demons, it is clear that the demons are also terrified when they see the people that live in the light, when they see angels or the archangels. I am thinking about something that I know is true, of something that I have been able to live, to experience for myself, in a direct manner. Many times on entering the infernal worlds, I have seen the tenebrous ones horrified. I have heard them exclaim, "A demon has entered, defend us." They have certainly felt horror in my presence. I am a white demon for them and they are black demons for me. In this manner then, the devil is a matter of contrasts, of oppositions, etc., etc. In Draconscious the dragon was worshipped, that is the shadow of the logos, the shadow of the spiritual sun, his reflection in the universe and within ourselves. Do not forget that behind each sun that illuminates us is the Phoenician Elon, the Jewish Helion, the central sun of this universe in which we live, we move and have our being. That this sacred absolute sun has its contrasts and oppositions is normal. In any case, his shadow in us and within us is Lucifer, the great psychological trainer that we have for our own good. But please, I beg the brothers here that are listening to me to comprehend what I am saying. Do not fear. The resistances that there are in some of you who are listening at this moment are due to prejudices, to fear, to erroneous information from some dogmatic priests. All of us in childhood received a certain education and then erroneous, absurd and negative and harmful ideas were inculcated in us. We were told that Lucifer was a terrible devil that gave orders over all the earth, that he took us to an orthodox hell to torture us in containers of fire, etc., etc. I want you, my friends, to know once and for all that such a devil of orthodox religions does not exist. The true devil is carried within each of you in his interior. In the Middle Ages there existed a Gnostic sect of Sataniness. There also existed the sect of the Iscariots. The adepts of such sects were burnt alive in the bonfire of the Inquisition. It is a pity that the sect of the Satanians cannot now be restored, due to the concrete fact that the documentation was destroyed. The concrete fact that Judas Iscariot, until today, is really considered a betraying disciple also causes certain pain. If we wisely analyze what Satan is, the devil, Lucifer, if we comprehend that he is only the reflection of God within us, the shadow of the inner sun within each of us, located in the depth of our soul for our good, immediately and rightfully we are doing justice to such a Gnostic sect. Ladies and gentlemen, the orthodox, dogmatic Satan of the clerical sects does not exist. The authentic Lucifer is within each person and only in this manner can it be understood. Judas Iscariot is another very interesting case. Really, this apostle never betrayed Jesus the Christ. He only played a role, and this role was taught to him by his master Jesus. The cosmic drama, the life, passion and death of our Lord the Christ, was represented from ancient times by all the great avatars. The great Lord of Atlantis, before the second Transapalnean catastrophe, represented in flesh and blood the same drama of Jesus of Nazareth. On a certain occasion, a Catholic missionary that arrived in China found the same cosmic drama among people of the yellow race. "I thought that we, Christians, were the only ones that knew this drama," exclaimed the missionary. Confused, he put aside his habit. Such a drama was brought to earth by the Elohim. Any man that seeks the inner self-realization of the being has to live it and become its central character of the cosmic scene. In this manner, each of the 12 apostles of Jesus of Nazareth had to represent their role in the scene. Judas did not want to carry out the role that fell to him. He asked for Peter's role, but Jesus had already firmly established the role that each of the disciples had to symbolize. Judas had to learn by memory the role that he had to represent, and this was taught to him by his master. Judas Iscariot never then betrayed the master. The Gospel of Judas is of the dissolution of ego. Without Judas, the cosmic drama is not possible. This apostle is then the most exalted adept, the most elevated of all of the apostles of the Christ Jesus. Indubitably, each of the 12 had his own gospel. We cannot negate Peter to Peter. He is the Hierophant of sex, he who has the keys to the kingdom in his right hand, the great initiator. And what shall we say of Mark, who with so much love kept the mysteries of the Gnostic unction? And what of Philip, that great enlightened being whose gospel teaches us to come out with the astral body and travel with the physical body in the jinn state? And what of John, with the doctrine of the verb? And what of Paul with the philosophy of the Gnostics? It would be too long to narrate here everything that is related with the 12 and the cosmic drama. The moment has arrived to eliminate from our minds ignorance and the old religious prejudices. The instant has arrived to study the Christi esotericism in depth. Question, Master, with regard to the demons that supposedly frighten and torment people on the roads, is that true? Answer, with great pleasure I will answer the question that comes from the audience. When we deny the devil of dogmatic orthodox ones, we do not refuse the authentic devil that exists within each person. We also do not deny the tenebrous demons of the Avernus that torment people. However, we should NNK a clear differentiation between what is the shadow of the logos within us, Lucifer, and what the demons or psychic aggregates or fallen angels, etc., 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 are. Demons exist wherever, within and outside of us. Demons are our psychic aggregates. Demons are the psychic aggregates of our fellow men. Demons are Baal, Moloch, Belial and many millions, billions or trillions more. The latter inevitably exist and we have to fight against them. Question, dear Master, what is the efficient manner to defend ourselves from the devils that attack us? Answer, friends, there exist many ancient conjurations through which it is possible to defend ourselves from the attacks of the tenebrous ones. Let us remember the conjuration of the 7 of Solomon the sage, the conjuration of the 4, the pentagram, etc., etc. In a very special way it is convenient to know that the pentagram, with the superior angle pointing upwards and the 2 inferior angles pointing downwards, makes the tenebrous ones flee. Question, Master, I would like you to tell me if the 5th angel that comes in war to give inner wisdom of the being can liberate and give the great teaching about Judas Iscariot to humanity. Answer. Friends that listen to me tonight, distinguished lady that asks this question, in the Middle Ages, certain reactionary elements, comprehending that Samael, my real internal being, the 5th of the 7, would teach the occult revolutionary wisdom, gave the shadow of the logos the name of Samael, that is, They treated me as devil because of the transgression of not fitting in with their terribly narrow molds. It is up to me now to unveil, to indicate with clarity the path, to carry out a dissection of many words and concepts, to see what they have 61 truth. I am not the only initiate that knows the mysteries of the cosmic drama, neither am I the only one that has the honor of knowing the role of Judas, since we already know that the Gnostic sect of the Iscariots existed, specialized precisely in the gospel of the great master Judas, faithful disciple of our Lord the Christ. The learned ignoramuses, the intellectual rascals, the followers of many dead sects, will throw themselves against us because of the simple fact of having divulged these matters. However, we fulfill our duty, and with great pleasure we throw light on the darkness, no matter what. I repeat, justice has not been done to Judas, in spite of the fact that he was the most exalted of all the 12. What happens is that humanity dislikes horribly the elimination of the ego, and since the doctrine of the Iscariot is precisely against the I, against the myself, then the most natural thing is that even the same erudites of diverse pseudo-esoteric schools and pseudo-occultists mortally hate the doctrine. In any case, the four Gospels cannot be taken as dead letter. They are written in code. They have been precisely elaborated by initiates for initiates. Question, Master, then if Judas Iscariot was the most elevated of the disciples of the great Kabir Jesus, who then was the traitor? Answer, I will answer this question that comes from the audience. Friends and Gnostic brothers that listen to me, the true traitor of Christ is within each of us. This means that not only did they betray the Christ, but that they betray him daily, from instant to instant, from moment to moment. The Masonic brothers well know who the three traitors of Hiram Abiff are. Judas is the demon of desire, who betrayed the inner Christ from second to second. Pilate is the demon of the mind that is always excusing itself, justifying itself, washing its hands, declaring itself innocent, etc., etc. Caiaphas is the demon of ill will. Each person carries him well within, he who does not know how to do the will of the Father, he who always does what he wants, whatever he feels like doing, without caring in the least about the commandments of the Blessed One. The three traitors murdered Hiram Abiff, the secret master. Jesus the great Kabir, before crystallizing in himself the three primary forces of the universe, had to eliminate the inner Judas, as each of you have to do within you. Once this is understood, once comprehended that the Iscariot only fulfilled his duty obeying the master and representing the role that he had learned by memory, we should now do justice to this adept before the solemn verdict of public conscience. Question, Master, from the beginning of Christianity, the sacred Bible known as the Book of Divine Truth does not mention the apostles as you called them, nor does it teach that Lucifer is the shadow of God. Why should we give more credit to your words than to the ones that are read in the Holy Gospels? Answer, with great pleasure I will give an answer to the question that comes from the audience. Distinguished gentlemen, the four Gospels were written 400 years after Christ, not by the apostles, but by disciples of the apostles, and as I have said, they are written in code. Certainly they are four treatises of alchemy and Kabbalah. Wisely analyzing the words of the great Kabir Jesus, we see in them the Chaldean and parabola, the Pythagorean mathematics and the Buddhist morals. Undoubtedly the great Kabir traveled through India, Chaldea, Persia, Greece, etc., etc., etc. Only those who have studied Gnosticism, only those who have gone deeper in the Cainite, Satanian, Iscariot, Nicenian, Essenian, Pedictesian esotericism, etc., etc., know for sure what the mysteries of Lucifer are and the role that Judas carried out and what each of the apostles of the Master Jesus had to do in the cosmic drama. It is not precisely the Bible that will explain the role of each of the 12. Begin, distinguished gentlemen, by getting to know in depth the esotericism of the 12 signs of the zodiac, and then orient yourself through the study of comparative religion and the Gnostic writings. You can intuit much studying the Pistis Sophia. It is a pity that we only find this book in English, however, I hope that someday it will be translated into Spanish. In any case, we should not study the Bible as dead letter, since it is written in a symbolic manner and only initiates can understand it. Question, Master, please explain to us why Peter denied the Christ 3 times? Answer, with great pleasure I will answer this question. It is said that Peter denied the Christ 3 times, and it is good to know its meaning. Obviously, this is completely symbolic. With this, I would like you to understand that the initiate falls into temptation again and again, whether it be in the physical world or in the internal worlds. He cries and suffers the unspeakable. However, if he perseveres, if he is firm, if at the end he eliminates the ego and reduces it to cosmic dust, then he becomes a master and arrives at inner self-realization.